Shalom. First and foremost, going to give all praises and glories to Allah, Yahweh, Bashem, Yahshua, Bashem, Kwadash. Much love and respect to the elders, apostles, bishops, great millstone. Also, much love and respect to all you Akim out there on the highways and byways doing this work in sincerity and truth. And shalom to the few sisters in silence, to the spirit and power from the Lord, Yahweh, Bashem, Yahshua. So, I want to talk about affliction because right now, as we're, on our journey in this truth, us brothers, we go through affliction. And, when our Lord Yahweh Shai comes to deliver us out of this captivity, affliction shall not arise a second time. All right, we're not going to go through affliction anymore. All right, this is going to be our last hurrah right here. Okay, so for those, you heathens talking about, oh yeah, y'all may rule for a time being, but we're going to rise up and take you down again. No. That's not going to happen, all right? This is the last merry-go-round of our captivity, okay? So technically, the blessings were given unto Israel, okay? We received the blessing of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, all right, through Abraham and through Isaac and through Jacob, okay? And from Jacob, his 12 sons, which are the 12 patriarchs of the nation of Israel, okay? So we received the blessing, the nation of Israel, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native and Seminole Indians, all right? We have the blessing, okay? So after this kingdom, after when this man goes down, that's it. There's not going to be no more affliction of the nation of Israel. Okay? We're never going to go back into captivity after this. Okay? But you other nations, you're going to go into captivity. And you're going to have to drink of that cup. Okay? You're going to have to endure the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Okay? Just like we as a nation endure those curses, okay? And still to this very day, all right? So I'm going to start off with the book of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 9. And it reads, "What do ye imagine against the Lord? He will make an utter end. Affliction shall not arise. Affliction shall not rise up a second time." You see that? So the scriptures are saying that affliction shall not rise up a second time. So for you proud-ass Edomites, you so-called white people talking about, oh, yeah, you may rule for a time being, but we're going to rise up and take you down again. No, that's not going to happen. All right, the prophecy just said here in Nahum chapter 1, verse 9, that affliction shall not arise a second time, okay? So we're not going to go into captivity, okay? We're never, ever going back into captivity after this merry-go-round, after this hoorah right here. Okay, so we're going to be free, okay? And the law, statutes, and commandments are going to be embedded in our inward parts, which is our minds, all right? So we're never ever going to go off again, all right, through the spirit and power of our Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Okay, so let's get Lamentations right here. So this is Lamentations chapter 4, verse 21. And it reads, "Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, thou dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked." Okay, so the cup of the Lord's indignation, which are the curses of Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter, shall be passed on to the to Esau, the Edomites. All right. So verse 22, "The punishment of thy iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thy iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins." Okay. So the accomplish, you see that? So the punishment of thy iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion, which are the Israelites. So the Lord said here, he will no more carry thee away into captivity. Okay, so we're never ever going back into captivity after this. Okay, after this, this kingdom, this slavery right here that we're under, and the election get delivered up out of here. All right, that's it. We're never ever going back into captivity after that. All right, we're never ever going back into slavery under you heathens. Okay. All right, we're going to be forever free, and you heathens are going to be forever tributaries unto the nation of Israel. Okay, like it's supposed to be. Okay, so we were made to be on the top, and you heathens were made to be beneath us. Okay, that's how the Most High Yahweh Bashim Yahushua set it up. All right, so that's what it is. So let's get So this is Isaiah 51:22. Thus saith the Lord, and thy God, thy pleadeth with the cause of the people. Behold, I have taken out of thy hands the cup of trembling, even the dregs of the cup of my fury. Thou shalt no more drink it again, but I will put it in the hands of them that afflicted thee, which have said that thou shalt bow down, that we may go over, and thou hast laid thy body as the ground, as the street, to them that walked over. Okay, so the Lord is saying here that we're never ever going to drink of that wine. All right, we're never going to drink of that cup, which is slavery. All right, which is the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. So we're never ever going to drink it no more again. Okay, so we're going to be forever free. All right. So that iniquity that we done, the breaking the laws, statutes, and commandments of our Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, we're never ever gonna do that. All right, we're never ever gonna go off again. All right, and we're never ever gonna drink of that cup again. All right, we're gonna be forever free. All right, but for you other nations, you're gonna have to drink of that cup. All right, for all the wickedness and all the bloodshedding of our people, especially you Edomites, you so-called white people. All right, you're going to pay. All right, you're going to pay double for what you did unto the nation of Israel. All right, and that's just what it is. All right, there's no reversing it. There's no turning it back. All right, there's no nothing. You're going to have to fulfill Deuteronomy 30:7. Okay, you're going to fulfill the curses of Deuteronomy 28th chapter. Okay. All right, so there's no way out of that. And you're going to pay daily for what you've done to the nation of Israel. All right. All right, the kingdom also is not going to be left to other people. All right, the kingdom is only for the nation of Israel, not you other nations. All right. The blessing went from Abraham onto Isaac, onto Jacob, and from Jacob his 12 sons. All right, it didn't go to you heathens. All right. So for you dumbass Israelites trying to save the heathen, you're going to be put down, all right? You're definitely going to be put down, all right? Because that's not in the scriptures. That you're not going to find anywhere in the Bible where the Most High Yahweh Bashim Yahushua made a covenant with the heathen, all right? You're not going to find it there. It's not there, all right? All right, so this is Daniel chapter 2, verse 44. And in the days of these kings shall the Most High of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Okay? So the kingdom, what is that talking about? The kingdom of heaven, okay? So the kingdom of heaven is not going to be left to other people, because we as Israelites, starting with the hopeful elect, we're going to be ruling under our Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, okay? Ruling you heathens, okay? So you heathens are not going to take part in the kingdom, all right? You're going to be slaves, all right? You're going to be our slaves, okay? So that's just how that's going to be, you know? And this is our last hurrah right here. And besides, you heathens, you're in need of new rulership. You're in need of new leadership, okay? And we had a heathen couple like years ago, like probably like 2 years ago, that came up and said that, you know, that we as Israelites, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native and Seminole Indians, we belong on top. We're the ones that's supposed to be ruling this earth in righteousness under our Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. And that's how it's supposed to be, all right? That's just how it's supposed to be, and that's just how the Lord set it up. That's how the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai set it up to be that way, okay? So, you know, there's no reversing that, all right? So the kingdom is not going to be left to other people. All right, we're going to rule the kingdom forever and ever and ever. All right. So let's get... So let's go to the book of Revelations 11. All right, so this is the book of Revelations 11 and 15. And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Mashiach, and he shall reign forever and ever. You see that? So the kingdoms, all the kingdoms that once ruled before, when Yahweh Shai destroys these kingdoms, which our Lord Yahweh Shai is coming back in these times, you know, when he puts down the so-called white man and all these other nations, all right, he shall reign forever and ever, and the election is going to be joint heirs with him, okay? So once our Lord Yahweh Shai, he comes, okay, and he puts an end to all these kingdoms, and he puts an end to the so-called white man's kingdom, that's it. You know, we're going to reign forever and ever with our Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai for eternity, all right, which that's how it's supposed to be, because our Lord promised our forefather King David that of his kingdom shall be no end, okay? So once our Lord Yahweh Shai comes back and sets up the kingdom under the elect, you know what I'm saying, all right, of his kingdom is going to be no end, all right, and that's how it's supposed to be. All right, of his kingdom shall be no end, and affliction shall not rise a second time of the nation of Israel, okay? So we're going to forever live in peace, and we're going to be under the harmony of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai forever, you know, with the laws, statutes, and commandments embedded in our inward parts. So we're never ever going to go off again, all right? So with that, I'm going to leave it there, you know, and I'll catch you brothers on another one. Giving all praises and glories due to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rapakadash, Shalom.